Hi everyone, my name is Ian, and I wanted to give you guys a 4,200 mile review of the Honda Africa Twin CRF 1000L. So the reason that I'm doing the review is I thought a lot of you would want the perspective of someone who has owned a lot of adventure and dual sport bikes. So a bit about my background. This is my 27th or 28th motorcycle I've had since I started riding. I've been riding about 17 years. I started riding dual sports and dirt bikes when I was in high school, and I'm in my mid-30s now. So some of the bikes I've had that I can compare this to for you guys, I'll just name a few that I think are kind of similar. So I've had a V-Strom 650, I've had a KTM 950 Adventure, I've had a KTM 990 Adventure R, the tall one. I've had an F800 GS, which I rode and really enjoyed for 3 years or so. I've had a R1200 GS. I've had a Tiger 955. I've had a Tiger 1050. Both Triumphs, by the way, if you don't know. I've had a lot of KLR 650s, which I think should be mandatory for everyone to experience that. I've rode those, put a lot of miles on KLRs. I've also had a couple of DRZ 400s. I've had a Yamaha Super Tenere 1200, and I've had a bunch of other stuff that I won't get into because I don't want this video to be too long. So why did I get an Africa Twin? Well, I was interested in the bike when it came out in 2016, I guess it was, for the first model year. Really was watching the reviews. I was riding, I think I had my 990 at the time, or maybe a Tiger, I can't remember. Maybe I had a KLR. Really interested in what Honda could do with an adventure bike, and been waiting a long time for that. So in 2016, I kind of waited it out. They had the red and they had the silver in the US. I didn't really want either of those colors. I was hoping that they would release these rally colors for the next year, and of course they did. So when that came out, when they released the red, white, and blue, I went down to my local dealer and picked this up. That was about 1 year ago from today. So that's the reason I got it. I wanted to have a bike that was, actually capable off-road, that could do everything as one bike. So this is my only motorcycle. I sold my KTM 500 EXE after I got this because I just wasn't riding enough. So I really only have enough time to ride and enjoy one bike, and I thought this would be kind of the perfect solution for that. So that's kind of why I got it, and it was just a progression. I mean, I've had all the other bikes, so I thought this would be a good one to try. Trying to compare it to some of the bikes I've had. So, if you're looking at this, you're also looking at KTMs, you're also looking at BMWs. There's a lot of options coming into the market now. Compared to the 990 and the 950, which for me, up to the point that I got this, I would say were probably the most capable adventure bikes that have been made. This thing compared to those is the engine is much smoother, the bike feels lighter, the center of gravity is lower, you have the expected reliability from Honda. There's no engine heat coming up from this thing, which is awesome. Your legs don't get roasted like they do on the 950 and the 990. I talked about the low center of gravity. The suspension is not as good as those bikes. It just isn't. Honda did not put on a top level suspension. The suspension is okay. It's pretty good for a stock motorcycle from Japan, but it's nothing compared to what you get on a KTM. Comparing it to a 1200 GS. So if you've ridden a 1200 GS, you know that it's a really torquey bike. It's a really low center of gravity, really good handling. But when you get them off-road, they just feel kind of big. And this feels much more like a big dirt bike than the R1200. The R1200s to me feel more like a great sport touring bike that you can take off-road when you want to. So that's compared to that bike. How do I compare to other ones like the 800 GS, the KLR? I don't want to get into that too much, but this is, I will say, I think this is probably, for the money, this is probably still the best adventure bike on the market. And I would certainly pay the upgrade to have this over a KLR or a cheaper bike. So let me look at my notes here. So what do I love about the Africa Twin? Some things I really love about it where I think Honda did great. Number one, I mean, look at this bike. For me, I think it looks amazing. The gold wheels, the white and blue and the red, it just looks awesome. And I think it's one of the best looking bikes that adventure bikes ever made, even compared to the new stuff. The engine is smooth and very linear in its power, extremely predictable, easy to ride. Although on the other hand, it's not, I wouldn't call it exciting, but it gets the job done and it works extremely well. It feels light. The bike does not feel like 500 pounds. Center of gravity, you can handle and throw this thing through corners off-road better than you can a smaller, like a 650 KLR or something like that, or even an 800 GS. This handles better than the 800 GS did, in my opinion. The wind management even from the stock shield. So I have an aftermarket shield, but I actually went back to the stock shield. I think it works pretty darn well for most people. The seat is, for a stock seat, you know, I've never have a stock seat on my bikes, but this stock seat is really comfortable. I've ridden it 400 miles in a day and it's been fine. I'm really impressed with that. The bike is easy to maintain, another good thing. So oil changes, you know, adjustments, it's just engineered really well, easy maintenance. You probably never have to go to a dealer if you're somewhat capable with just regular tools. Some other things I want to say about it, the suspension travel is really long. So you get like 9 inches of travel, I think, front and back, which is great. You get real ground clearance under here. So this thing has more ground clearance than most adventure bikes, so you don't hang up on rocks and things. I really like the rider aids. So traction control and ABS. This model has the 3-stage, or I guess 4-stage traction control, 3 levels of intervention and then off. You could see that if I turned it on, but the new ones have, I think, 7 levels or 9 levels, which is great. I think it's good to have that, but the 3 levels is enough. The traction control is great because you can put it on the lowest intervention and you can just ride around full throttle around corners, and it gives you quite a bit of slide so you can impress your buddies, but it won't completely slide out on you and low side. So the traction controls were useful on a big 500-pound bike with 95 horsepower. ABS. People debate about ABS, but the truth is, well, for me anyway, my opinion is ABS can be a real lifesaver, and I really don't want to have a bike without it, at least not a bike I'm going to ride on the street. So the thing I like about the Africa Twin ABS is that when you disable it, it just disables ABS on the rear wheel. So you can lock your rear wheel, but it keeps the ABS on the front wheel. But this is not like the ABS you had, 10 years ago on one of your BMWs, where they would just chatter and it would just be dangerous to ride on in the gravel. These don't do that. They're set up in the software for off-road, and they modulate really well, and you don't get the scary situations where you come up to a stop sign on a gravel road and you just blow right through it. Through a fence or something. I've done that, by the way, on my old 800 GS. That really sucked. Here's some things that I think are just okay. I think the engine could use more power. I mean, Honda's competing against bikes. Even the KTM 1090 has 30 more horsepower than this, and that's not even the 1190 or the 1290. So I think they could probably up their game there. I know they're going for reliability, and I'm sure it will be durable, but could use more punch if you're trying to keep up with your buddies. The gauges, they give you these digital gauges, which I know everything's going digital, but I'm not a huge fan of them. They're just okay. They're pretty legible, but sometimes in the sunlight, they're not as legible. In lighting like this, they work great. The other weird thing about the gauges is when you go, it doesn't have a fuel range estimate, like how many miles you have on your tank or how many miles left on your tank. It doesn't give you that, which is strange. I don't know why they didn't do that, although they do give you a very accurate fuel gauge. So what are the things I don't like about the bike? Well, number one, so in the first year of this bike, you can see it's a cable throttle. Now, why they're using cable throttle in this day and age, I don't really know. The main problem I have with that is that there's no option for cruise control on this bike. Now, when you're riding, thousands of miles out to wherever you're going, the Rockies or wherever you're going to travel to, you really want cruise control on those long days, and it's just disappointing that Honda doesn't have that. The Tigers have it, the KTMs have it, the BMWs have it. So Honda, you need to step up your game on that. I know the latest Africa Twins have a ride-by-wire throttle, but they're still not giving you cruise control, and I don't understand that. I have the Honda center stand on mine, which is a terrible thing to have to put on. It's just not fun to put it on, but I think they should give you a center stand standard, because this is a big bike. When you're loading it with luggage, you want to be level, and how are you going to adjust your chain or lube your chain without a center stand on a 500-pound bike? It's not like a dirt bike where you can just kind of lift it up with your arm. The stock tires, of course, suck for off-road, but you know that's true on every bike that you get. They always give you these tires that are just kind of useless. So I want to tell you a few things that I did to modify it just real quick. I know I'm coming up on 10 minutes here, trying to keep this short. I've got SW Motec crash bars on it. I've got an ACD Racing skid plate. The stock skid plate, when I went to Death Valley, is already bent up and dented. I can show you that. So you need a better coverage skid plate. So that went on. I've got pivot pegs. I like pivot pegs personally. They pivot, you know, with your boot, so they kind of help your ankles and just give. So I like the pivot pegs. I've got Tusk pannier racks. Tusk product. I'm a huge fan of Tusk products from Rocky Mountain ATV. I think they're awesome. They have a great price point and they've always been very durable for me. You can put soft bags on here, hard bags, whatever you want to do. You'll notice I have the stock exhaust. I'm not a big aftermarket exhaust person. I don't like noise, so I've kind of kept the stock one, even though it's a little bit ugly and big. I put on real handguards. You have to have real handguards. I mean, if you drop the bike with the plastic handguards and break your lever, especially if you break your clutch, how are you going to ride home with no clutch lever? It kind of sucks. I've been there, done that, and so anyway, just get these are Buckbuster Storm handguards. Real good setup. I put on heated grips under these. I only run these gel grips. I think they're the best. Got a throttle rocker on there. I use a Garmin Montana, you know, but you'll find whatever GPS you'd like. I'm running a Scott steering damper. That's kind of a big ticket item, right? Like $600 or whatever. But I would not ride these bikes without a steering dampener. When you're off road and going 70, 80 miles an hour through the desert or going through rocks or whatever it is, having a steering damper is such a huge benefit. I mean, you don't see anyone racing down in Baja on their dirt bike without one. So it's kind of an indication that you should have that. Let's see, I put on this plastic thing here is a wind deflector, and it helps the wind from coming up through here and buffeting your helmet. I think that helps a lot on this bike. That was probably like $30 or something. Like I said, I put on the Honda center stand. I put on a side stand enlarger because the stock side stand is this part here, and if you park in sand, your bike's just going to sink in and fall over, and that's going to suck. So get the center stand enlarger. For tires right now, I'm pretty happy with these. This is the Mitas E07 Plus. I think it's their new one. They call it the Plus. That's been a good tire for me. I only have 400 or 500 miles on it. And then I have a Continental TKC 80, you know, the good old TKC 80 on the front. I still haven't found a front adventure bike tire that I like more than the TKC. It just does its job. The bike comes with LED headlight stock, which is great. They light up pretty well. I have ridden quite a bit at night, and I probably would, if I keep the bike, I'll probably put on some Baja designs or some sort of additional lights for it. So I think that's kind of it. Actually, let me walk over here real quick and show you the luggage that I use, because I don't have the luggage on the bike right now. I'm a big believer in soft luggage for any bike that's going to go off-road. So I have a whole set of the luggage from Rig Gear, which you might know as Nelson Rig. So I've got their Hurricane tail bag I use for a tail bag. I've got their Sierra dry bag saddle bags that I can put on. I've got this big duffel bag for camping gear. I've got two different tank bags. I've got the smaller one. I think they call this the Trail's End. And then this is their old version, which I have. And then they gave me these roll bags. So just as a disclosure, they supply me with all this stuff, and I do marketing photos for them. They wanted someone with an Africa Twin of my color to do marketing for them. So I take photos, and they give me this stuff for free, which is great. Here's the stock skid plate. So you can see what I was saying about the dents and stuff in it. It's just too thin. It's just not gonna be there for you when you need it. Although at least they give you a metal one. Some companies give you plastic, which is really a joke. I have a V-Stream touring windshield. This is their, I think, regular size or medium size windshield. Works really well. I just, for the summertime, I have the stock shield on, so get a little bit more breeze. These are the stock handguards. You can see, you know, they're just plastic. junk. I mean, they look fine, but they're just not going to protect your bike in a crash. So anyway, I think that's about it. Would I buy the Africa Twin again after having all the other bikes? Yes, I would. I would absolutely buy it, and I recommend it to anyone who's looking for a mid-size or large adventure bike who doesn't want to spend, $25,000 on a KTM or a GS, and wants a great all-around bike. You will not be disappointed with this bike. It's a really excellent machine. If you have questions, comments, let me know below and I'll try to address them. Hope you guys found this useful. Thank you.